If Turkey didn't exist, India might never have been colonized. The most shocking story from history. Today, India is a free and self-reliant nation. But have you ever wondered, if a country called Turkey had never existed on the world map, perhaps the British would have never reached India? And if that hadn't happened, what followed wouldn't just be history, it could have rewritten the future of the entire world. Yes, this isn't a fictional tale, but a historical truth. A turning point that first made India the golden bird, and then chained it into centuries of slavery. And at the center of it all was Turkey. Today, we are going to dive deep into this fascinating chapter. But before that, if you are new to our channel, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an update. Now, let's begin today's discussion. At a time when India-Turkey relations are tense, when Turkey is siding with Pakistan and making anti-India statements, it's being criticized all across India. But this backlash is tied to the present. If we look back 600 years into the past, we'll realize that Turkey didn't just influence today's politics, it changed the entire course of global economics and geopolitics. This story begins in the year 1453. It was the month of May. The city we now know as Istanbul was then called Constantinople, a city that connected Asia and Europe. For nearly 1500 years, it had been the heart of the Roman Empire. But in that year, its power was seized by a rising force, the Ottoman Empire. And with that, began a historical journey that would ultimately shape India's destiny. When the Ottomans captured Constantinople, their first move was to shut down the overland trade routes that connected Europe to Asia. These routes weren't just trade corridors. They were lifelines that delivered Indian spices and textiles straight to Europe's royal tables. India's black pepper and Dhaka muslin, in particular, were prized luxuries among Europe's elite. But once those routes were closed, trade came to a sudden halt. And that's when the race for sea routes began. European nations were desperate. Spain, France, Portugal, and Britain all sent ships in search of new ways to reach India. Christopher Columbus was part of that mission, but he mistakenly landed in America, leading to its discovery in 1492. Meanwhile, Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama, sailing along the coast of Africa, rounded the Cape of Good Hope and eventually reached Calicut, India. This twist of fate, triggered by Turkey's closure of land trade, set the stage for the colonial age and India's long period of subjugation. For India, this marked the beginning of a new era. Sea routes now opened up for trade, and soon Portuguese and Dutch merchants began arriving. The demand for India's spices and textiles in Europe was so high that these traders' fortunes transformed overnight. But India's fortunes also began to shine. Gold and silver coins started flowing into India in exchange for black pepper and muslin. India truly became the golden bird. But even this wealth couldn't save India. As European powers reached Indian shores, their intentions began to shift. They no longer came just to trade, they wanted to rule. In 1600, the British arrived, soon followed by the French and the Danes. This commercial competition turned India into a battlefield as these foreign powers fought for control over India's trade routes. Then came the fateful day, the Battle of Plassey in 1757. On the soil of Bengal, the British defeated 𝐼𝐸𝐻, establishing their stronghold in India. This was followed by the Battle of Buxar in 1764, which gave the British direct control over India's administration and financial systems. And from here began India's century-long saga of colonization. But would any of this have happened if Constantinople had not fallen? If Turkey, the Ottoman Empire, had not disrupted trade between Europe and Asia? Probably not. Then, the Europeans wouldn't have set out across the seas in search of new routes. Columbus wouldn't have discovered America, and Vasco da Gama wouldn't have reached India. And perhaps India would never have been colonized, nor its identity stripped away. It's important to understand the complexity of history. The fall of a single city, the closure of a single trade route, and the discovery of a new path, these events together reshaped the direction of the entire world. Today, as we view Turkey as an adversary, we must remember that it was this very Turkey that once ignited the spark which changed the destiny of India. Turkey's history isn't limited to Constantinople. The Ottoman Empire ruled for centuries over large parts of Central Asia, Europe, and Africa. It held the leadership of the Islamic world. The traditions of art, architecture, trade, and governance they established continue to influence many parts of the world even today. But times changed, powers shifted. The Ottoman Empire collapsed, and Turkey became a democratic republic. Yet now, modern Turkey appears to be drifting back toward that same ambition for power and expansion. Supplying weapons to Pakistan, making anti-India statements, and adopting a hostile stance against India on global platforms, these are signs of that expansionist mindset re-emerging. When India launched Operation Dost in 2023 after the devastating earthquake in Turkey, the world witnessed India standing for humanity. But in 2025, when India launched Operation Sindoor, a decisive strike against terrorism, Turkey chose to forget that humanity. By siding with Pakistan, Turkey denied the very bond of friendship that India had extended. Now the question is, can India trust Turkey again? Is this the same Turkey that once changed the course of history, or has it become a self-serving, opportunistic nation entangled in its own strategic ambitions? India must decide. Should it forgive the bonds of the past or shape its policies based on the realities of the present? Today, India has choices to respond economically, to counter diplomatically on global platforms, and to spread public awareness that Turkey is no longer just a historic power, but a nation now playing with India's emotions and security in today's geopolitical landscape. One thing is clear from this entire story: history isn't confined to textbooks. It returns, again and again, with new faces, new intentions, and new lessons. Turkey once made India the golden bird, and through the same paths, also contributed to its colonization. And now, as Turkey once again revives its old games, India must move forward with the wisdom of its past. And that is the justice of history. It evolves with time, but it always stays alive in memory.
Taught you something new, do not forget to like and share this video so that this information can reach others as well. Your likes and shares are a source of inspiration for us. If you have any questions or suggestions, please let us know in the comments. It will be our honor to answer your questions and listen to suggestions. And yes, if you like our content, subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so that you stay connected with every new story. Thank you. GRT Business YouTube channel sources, news from various news agencies, opinion polls and other public sources. We try to ensure that every report and summary is accurate and verified, but we are not responsible for any dispute or error. Our aim is only to provide you with accurate information.